Welcome to the Leap Health Workplace Podcast. Here we explore innovative, proven health and wellbeing solutions to drive your performance and productivity. Leap Health empowers individuals and organisations to prioritise their health and wellbeing as a catalyst to performance and productivity. We do this by providing workplace health and wellbeing performance workshops and also the Leap 360 one-to-one leadership coaching to drive health, wellbeing and performance, powered by the Game Changer Index Energy for Impact profiling tool. And we offer bespoke corporate programs to ignite proactivity in ownership at all levels of health and wellbeing as a catalyst to performance and productivity. Whether you're sat at your desk right now or on the move, get ready to listen, get ready to invest your time and take action straight after. I'm Anna Reddy. Let's get ready to make small steps to leap health. Welcome to the podcast today. And today seems a really simple topic. Decision making. We make many decisions every day. And in a busy workplace, sometimes those decisions can get overwhelming and we can create this sense of decision fatigue. And also in the workplace, we often use very sophisticated tools, which are well needed in certain situations to make complex decisions. And it can involve many complex processes to come to that final decision. However, today I want to really peel back all those layers and make it dead simple as to what should be the foundations of decision making. And unless our brain is in the right place to make decisions, the quality of the decisions and outcomes are really compromised. So let's start to think about the science behind it all. So there's three areas of the brain that I want you to really think about. The first is the prefrontal cortex, and this is really important for executive function in terms like logic, reasoning, long-term planning. Then we've got the amygdala, which is a bit of a threat detector. So if we perceive a threat or get stressed, that amygdala lights up and it's constantly looking for danger. And you might remember from a previous podcast when we were talking about parenting and how some decisions can be made in a situation of stress, and it's not always the most optimal decision if you're making that under pressure or under stress. And then we've got the hippocampus as well, which is really important for that learning and memory preservation. And often decisions that we make are based upon our past experiences as well. So that's why that hippocampus can play a big impact in terms of how smart your future decisions are. So imagine if you think, can I take on this new task, or can I achieve this new goal, or should I say yes to this, should I say no to this? A lot of it can be based upon what's happened in the past. So as always, I like to use the READY method, R for rest, recovery, charge, E for eating well, A for activity, D for distraction management, and Y for you. And let's use this as a foundation for how we can actually ensure that our brain is working optimally. It's in the best place to make those decisions, and maybe in the best place to be able to tap into all the tools and resources that we've got and analytics that we've got to enable more accurate and positive decision making. So the first one of these is R for rest, recovery, recharge. And we all know that when we sleep, when we get that deep restorative sleep and we've had a good night's sleep, we feel far more confident in our ability to see things clearly, to make decisions. And the decision we make on a well-rested, well-slept mind compared to that that's tired and fatigued and stressed is completely different. And when we do go to sleep, when we go into that restorative stage of sleep, this is in essence where the cleaners come in our brain and clean up everything from the day. It's where we press pause on everything that we've learned during the day and consolidate those memories, which again go into that hippocampus where all those memories are consolidated. So making sure that you get that adequate amount of rest is imperative to be able to reset and rethink about what is the optimal decision. It also obviously has a long-term impact on our long-term health, and there are studies that show an increase in Alzheimer's with those people who have compromised the sleep and had disturbed sleep for many years, because we do see an increase in those amyloid plaques in the brains of people that have not had adequate sleep. Because when we do sleep, that again is a time for everything to be flushed out of the brain, and we get rid and reset all that. We get rid of all those amyloid plaques, which are an indicator for Alzheimer's. So that's a bit about sleep, but actually during the day, what can we do to reset during the day as well? And often we just think that we need to keep going and not take our foot off the gas because we've got to be super productive. We need to reframe this just by taking maybe 5 or 10 minutes out during the day, just to reset your mind, maybe just through some slow breathing, getting some fresh air out in nature, can just really reset your mind. And we all know that often when you're stuck on a decision and you don't know what to do and you can't see the wood for the trees, you get out, you get around the block, you reset, and all of a sudden things just seem really clear. That prefrontal cortex kicks in and you can see what's going to happen in the future. What impact is this decision going to have in the long term? And you just get that sense of clarity and understanding as to where you need to go. And also, it's reducing that stress. It's reducing the activity in the amygdala that's firing up and perceiving threat all the time. And some things that you might have seen without rest, and you might have seen it as a threat, you actually see it as an opportunity if you're rested and recharged. So often we can sometimes think with goals, oh my gosh, they're unachievable. I can't do them. I can't make this decision to commit to do that if we're not rested. And yet if we are, sometimes we see that goal as like, yeah, bring it on. I can do it. It completely changes your mindset. So moving on to E. E is for eating well. And there's to pull on 5 key things that we can really do to fuel our mind for better decision making. The first one of these is to think about prioritizing all the nutrients that you need. So if you're constantly depriving yourself of all different things and cutting different things out of your diet, which social media seems to champion all over, avoid this, avoid that, and you're going to feel better. And all you actually do is start thinking about you wanting those things even more. And we know from research around like New Year's goals that approach goals are far more successful than avoidance goals. So start to really think about prioritizing the nutrients that you need rather than what I'm taking away. So in terms of what you might want to prioritize, let's have a think about that. So let's think first of all about fiber. And in the UK, we're currently getting about 20 grams of fiber a day. We need around about 30 grams of fiber. And fiber plays a really important role, particularly in terms of our gut health. And we know that lots of the signals from our brain from our gut go to the brain. And you've got that bilateral connection between the vagus nerve. And we really need to protect all those good microbiome in our gut by feeding it the right things and giving it plenty of those prebiotics. So fiber is a really good way to feed all those live bacteria and the good bacteria in your gut. And lots of our serotonin is also produced in the gut as well, which supports the way that we feel mentally and makes us feel happier as well. If we're feeling happier, we're more open to making different decisions. And again, we think a lot clearer in terms of our decision making. So try to get both soluble and insoluble fiber. So soluble, I think, are things like oats that soak things up. Your insoluble fiber are things like root vegetables, and they kind of move things through your gut. They keep things moving through your gut. But most importantly, they're helping to feed that good bacteria, which is supporting your brain health, which is giving you clarity and positivity when you're making those decisions. The next thing to think about is managing your blood sugar levels. And fiber supports you in managing those blood sugar levels because it slows down the digestion of that sugar. But we all know that if you have something particularly sugary, you might have loads and loads of energy straight away. But quite quickly after, if that's a really high glycemic index carbohydrate, you get a bit of a dip and then you feel a bit sluggish, you can't concentrate, that decision fatigue starts to kick in, it seems a little bit overwhelming, and that's because you've got peaks and troughs in blood sugar levels. So just imagine it, lots and lots of sweets and processed sugars and things like that, you're going to have like a roller coaster of blood glucose. What we want to aim for is like a steady flow of that energy. So by eating more low GI carbohydrates, such as like pulses, whole grain pasta, brown rice, those things that slowly release your energy, we're going to stabilize those blood sugar levels, and that's what we want. And to also support the stabilization of blood sugar levels, try to include, as I said, fiber, but also try to include protein as well. Protein takes a lot longer to digest and can slow down the digestion of those carbohydrates, along with healthy fats as well. So that's the first one was prioritization. The second one was thinking about your gut and fiber, and then the third one is thinking about getting a steady level of those blood glucose levels as well. The fourth one, I've really just mentioned protein as well, but protein, it has a role in every cell in our body, but particularly in terms of our brain as well, in terms of supporting that clarity and the function of our brain. And then the last one is your healthy fats. So healthy fats, and particularly your omega-3s, and particularly that DPA and EHA, are really important for supporting your brain health in terms of the structure of your brain, but also the messages that go across your brain as well. So unless the messages are firing off correctly in our brain, and unless we've got that good structure in our brain, again, that's really going to impact on our decision making. So try to think about those 5 things. Try to think about prioritization rather than avoidance. Try to think about fueling your gut. Try to think about adding protein in to create that sense of satiety, to stabilize those blood sugar levels, but also to support your brain as well. Try to stabilize those blood glucose levels. Avoid that roller coaster of glucose in your body, and try to opt for those things that are going to drip feed a steady level of glucose and fuel your mind steadily rather than those peaks and troughs. And then finally, really try to think about your healthy fats, and in particular those omega-3s. If you don't eat oily fish, try to get a supplement that contains that EPA and DHA. And then just an add-on to this, which you could probably put in that prioritization bit, is just to really understand the micronutrients that can really support your brain. So things such as your B12, in terms of your vitamin D, in terms of iron. Try to think about all those small macronutrients that can really help you. And then A is for activity. And this is a massive frustration of mine, that often, in our world now, we just sat in front of a computer screen, or we sat talking about something. We're trying to make decisions while we're not moving. Everything's stationary. Our body, our brain is not in the best place to make decisions if we're stationary. Our brain loves to move. And when we move and get a little bit of activity going, it stimulates all those lovely neurochemicals in our brain. So it stimulates that noradrenaline, it stimulates that dopamine, that serotonin, BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which actually can grow that hippocampus where you've got all those memories and learning that's going on in there. And it really improves the plasticity of our brain. So that means that you're making new neurons and developing the plasticity of the brain. So even if you've been working on a decision for a little while, just get out, move, create a bit of movement, and that will stimulate all those neurochemicals in the brain, which have an impact on all those areas that we've spoke about before, in terms of that prefrontal cortex, which will give you that clarity and long-term decision making, in terms of the hippocampus, in terms of absorbing all those memories and making positive experiences that can enable you in future decision making, and that amygdala that can put you into that state of stress and danger. It can tip it over and make that amygdala less reactive and more positive to decisions. And then the next one is distraction management. So in our world, as it is, we have so many distractions. Our phones pinging constantly. We have opinions from different people all over. We have an abundance of information on the web, in terms of Instagram, in terms of TikTok, in terms of LinkedIn, with all these different opinions and different sources of information, that it can really add to all those decisions that we've got to make a final decision. And it really can become overwhelming, and we can get to a stage of decision fatigue. So we've really got to narrow down the information that we're taking and our distraction management. So if we are making a really important decision, it's important that we switch off from those other sources of information which are not going to enable us to make an accurate, positive decision. So I would really encourage you, any apps that actually you're not using and not serving a purpose, and all they're doing is pinging constantly, just to leave them, take them away. Think about what is your positive noise and what is your negative noise. So think about the positive noise that's going to enable you to make real positive decisions. So it could be podcasts, it could be people, it could be the things that you read, but make sure you are really, really intentional with the noise that you take in, and try to minimize that negative noise. So imagine if you're watching the news or seeing things on social media which is just taking up brain space when you're trying to make a decision. They're just putting spanners in the works in terms of derailing you when you're trying to make a decision. Try to take control of that. And actually, some data from and Harry showed that for every distraction we get during the day, it takes us about 23-24 minutes to get back on track again. So try to minimize those distractions, because it's really just going to delay that time to get into your final decision. And the final one is really to think about you. What is the best way for you to make decisions? And we will all have different ways of making decisions. But what really works for you? What works for your brain? And is it maybe just getting things down on paper and then prioritizing them? Is it using sophisticated tools? Is it talking to someone that you really value their input and getting their information and just being able to talk it through? What is the best way for you to make decisions? And another consideration when we're thinking about us as an individual is to think about our, as we've already mentioned, our experiences, also our skill set, also our personality, but then also a really important factor is our natural energy for impact. So what are the things that naturally energize us? What are the things that naturally bring us joy in life, where we feel like we're making a big purpose in the world, where it really aligns with our purpose, and we're making a big impact? So are these things where maybe we're really inspired by ideas and energized by idea creation, or maybe we're really energized by looking at a big strategic picture, and we're energized by data and trends? Maybe we're energized by that implementation, just getting things done, or maybe perfecting things, or maybe we're really people centric and love bringing people together. And a model that I often use with clients at an individual or team and organizational level is the Game Changer Index. And this is a really, really good data tool to enable you to make more accurate decisions based upon the things that individuals are naturally energized by, teams are, and organizations as well. So it really enables you to think about that balance of energy. Is this decision that I'm going to make, is it going to drain me, or is it going to give me more energy? Am I going to feel like I'm really energized by making this decision, or am I going to feel, it's going to be really difficult, it's going to be really hard? Or if you're thinking at a team level, who are the people I've got around me? How are they energized, and how can they support me in this decision? Have I got the right people around me to support me if I take path A or take path B? Maybe if you think at an organizational level, what are the gaps in going down this particular route? What are the gaps? What are the types of energy that we're missing? So that's a really, really important factor to think about is, as I said, your experience, your skill, your personality, but also the things that you're naturally energized by as well. And if you would like more information about the Game Changer Index, please do get in touch. And this is used in multiple business decision areas in many, many different organizations. But for the purpose of today, when you're thinking about you as an individual, really try to think about how you're energized, and then how that fits with the people around you and how their energy manifests as well. So just to recap on that, really prioritize that rest, recovery, recharge, which is just going to really reset and re-energize that prefrontal cortex, that amygdala, and that hippocampus as well. Fuel your brain like it's a Ferrari. Think about what you're taking on board. Think about moving. Moving is like firing up your brain. Fire up those neurochemicals that can stimulate everything to work properly in your brain. Think about your distractions. Take a hold of what is your positive distractions and what are your negative distractions, and really take hold of the things that you're actually absorbing, because we've only got a limited amount of space in our brain. So make sure that you're using that space really, really wisely, and make sure that it's all things that are contributing to you coming to that final accurate decision that's going to benefit you in the short term and the long term. And finally, just think about you. What is the best way for you to come to decisions? Think about your past, maybe. Think about, when did I make a really smart decision and how did I come to that decision? And on the flip side of that, when have I made some pretty poor decisions and what were the things that led to that? So I hope that's been useful, and I hope it's just giving you shed a little bit of light and giving you a fresh perspective on making decisions, and really got you to think about what actually is the foundations of positive decision making. And as I said, there's lots and lots of sophisticated tools out there which we really do need in many, many different situations. But unless we're making a positive, sophisticated brain by putting in that foundation of the ready method, it's going to minimize the impact of all those other sophisticated tools. I hope you found that useful. I would love to hear your feedback and your suggestions on decision making, and have a great day. So before you stop listening, I want you to pause. What did you take away from the podcast today? What small steps will you start? And what did you hear that you know could help someone else to make small steps to lead their health, well-being, productivity and performance? Please do share this episode, and please subscribe to the podcast. And remember that Leap Health are here to provide workplace health, wellbeing and performance workshops, one-to-one coaching and bespoke corporate solutions to help the world make small steps to leap health, wellbeing, productivity and performance. Please do get in touch. It's Anna at leaphealth.co.uk. Have a great day.